The cleric recites a prayer and trickles water on the Brotherhood mass assembled below. Behind him is Elder Cleric Quintus, an old veteran who is now the most powerful man in California. Quintus steps forward, addressing the crowd. In his hand is a paper, and reading it aloud, Quintus signals the Brotherhood's current mission. This mission was not sent by the Commonwealth High Elder. In this timeline, his chapter doesn't exist. No, this is a mission coming directly from Quintus in his bid to reclaim power. The absence of a Commonwealth chapter has massive consequences for the Fallout TV show. For one thing, it's questionable that Maximus even meets Lucy. In canon, the Brotherhood questline begins when Quintus receives orders from the Commonwealth chapter to hunt down the Cold Fusion ship. Why? I don't know. Whatever quagmire Maxon needs the chip for probably doesn't happen in this alternate reality. I think the Knights of San Fernando would still learn of Wilzig, given Maximus probably learned about Wilzig through the public bounty hunter network thingy that the ghoul uses. So they still would have sent Maximus after him. From there, up until the Battle of the Griffith Observatory, the timeline stays the same. The Brotherhood still secures the chip, and New Vegas is still the center of conflict in Season 2. In our timeline, the East is completely cut off from the West, so Quintus has nobody to give the chip to. Instead, he uses it to get all the other chapters to declare him High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel. Without the Commonwealth Ambassador, Maximus never gets exiled, or meets the ghoul. Without Maximus, Howard can't turn on Mr. House. Without Mr. House, he can't get in the Vegas bunker. And without the ghoul, Lucy is robotized. Now, the ghoul wouldn't tolerate Hank's everything, and he'd still want to find his family, so he still would have eventually found a way into the Vegas bunker and killed Hank, but it comes with a lot more death and time than in canon. I recognize I'm sort of clinging to canon a little, and in my defense, it's not that fun imagining a series where everyone dies. Plus, Howard was literally a second away from killing Hank in our own timeline. If he could just walk into the bunker, he could totally do so differently. I don't know how the ghoul gets into the vault. I'm assuming the NCR helps him get inside. In canon, he chose a Mr. House ending sort of thing. Maybe here he chooses an NCR ending. I don't know how the ghoul could help the NCR. In canon, he does nothing, and yet they rebuild anyway. To keep it simple, I'm going to say the ghoul props up the NCR, and the NCR storms the Vegas bunker. But with Lucy's death, the NCR cannot enjoy this victory for long. In canon, it's implied she stayed behind in New Vegas to fight Caesar's Legion. And with the ghoul having left for Colorado, and Lucy dead, the NCR is totally alone. In this timeline, they get crushed. Legate Lacerda sacks New Vegas and starts a reign of terror across the wastes. I don't know what he'd do after this. I could see him turning east to fight rebels and usurpers, where he'd likely get assassinated. Or he could march west into California, where he wins big. There's nothing to stop him, and if he did, any hope of the NCR rebuilding would die in the water. As for the ghoul, we don't know what adventures he'd go on in Colorado, so I'll just have to ignore it. The ramifications of setting the Enclave free are also horrifying, but ultimately that's a topic worthy of its own video, so I'll also have to ignore it. Looking back at this, it seems Sarah might have been worse for the Wasteland, somehow. Like, it has good effects for the East, but the West evolves into Enclave Legion Slave Society, and Sarah Lyons would be in no position to do anything about it. For now, I'm gonna focus on the Brotherhood, but don't forget this. In canon, Quintus dreams of reuniting the Brotherhood under himself, and he's willing to use diplomacy and war to achieve this. So as the new High Elder, what would be a more fitting goal then bringing the embarrassingly successful Eastern chapter to heel. Oh, it would be a great temptation. Of course, Quintus isn't dumb. He'd have a lot to lose attacking, and little gain, especially when he can just make them pay lip service. The ideological differences could be reconciled. Hell, in our own timeline, he already negotiates with chapter differences. Why would the East be any different? That said, there is a certain precedent at work here. Quintus is very power hungry, and while he can control the other chapters with cold fusion, he couldn't with the East. They'd be too far away and self-sufficient. They could pay lip service, but this control means nothing. Quintus is already pretty trigger-happy in canon. Who's to say he wouldn't be here? Still, even with airships, supplying a war across 3,000 miles is so inconvenient. Hell, I don't even know how he intends on doing so in canon. Nor are the differences that extreme. The Lyons would be happy to pay lip service. That alone prevents war. I've also been told by a peer reviewer that most of the West's power in the TV show could come from reinforcements sent from the East. Given we see the Pridwin in the TV show, I'm a bit skeptical of that claim. I'm a bit skeptical that that's even the real Pridwin. Like, if we listen to Harkness, which, yeah, that's a big if, he might be an Enclave spy or something, but let's just assume he's legit, then I don't think it makes sense for Maxon to give lots of equipment to the West, which he'd desperately need to fight whatever war is happening in the Commonwealth. And then it also doesn't make sense for him to turn around immediately after this and start begging for the cold fusion ship. It just seems counterproductive. Plus, if they did give the West more loot, wouldn't that make them more loyal? I don't think the East gave the West anything, so in my timeline, the West doesn't change too much. In reality, there's no war. Quintus rests on his laurels as the unifier. The East eventually drifts away from his orbit, even if Maxon ends up in charge. But for now, the NCR is gone, and the Legion's too backwards. His only real challenger is the Enclave, which Quintus might do something about. Quintus is flat out evil, nobody doubts that. But the Enclave's a level of evil I don't think even Quintus could tolerate. I don't know what's going to happen in Season 3, but if the Enclave emerges, the Brotherhood could be in a much stronger position to fight him, especially with Maximus, who is very idealistic and would very much want to fight him. If Quintus goes against the Enclave, then this timeline's a net positive. With the Enclave destroyed, Legate Lacerda probably getting assassinated, and nothing changing with the NCR, I bet this timeline might actually turn out well. Now, this is where the realistic part of the story ends, because just for fun, I'm gonna say Quintus starts a war anyway. Alright, now, in my original script, this chapter takes like 12 pages, which, yeah, that ain't happening. Just be chapter 1 all over again. No, you can't make me do it. You can't. So I'm just gonna make it brief. If war starts, I could see it going either way. Both sides have a lot of advantages. Sarah has home field advantage and the largest single chapter we see in game. Liberty Prime, the Pridwin, and probably Loyalist militias. Whereas Quintus would have some 4 airships, 4 chapters, and a stronger political agenda. Because after all, why would Sarah's forces even be fighting? To keep Sarah Lyons in charge? Why would they want to do that? It's fringe. The West would have a very simple objective: crush the rebels, which would be very easy to justify. Even with all these, I think the war would boil down to how cemented Sarah's power is, or how treacherous her subordinates or Arthur Maxon could be. Like, war is already a negative investment for Quintus. The Brotherhood is a scavenging organization, with no way to replace casualties. The longer the war goes on, the worse the Brotherhood is. So Quintus would need to win the war quickly, which is only really achievable by killing Sarah Lyons. Her leadership is pretty much the only thing keeping the war going. If Sarah decided to lead men into battle again, or had some falling out with Arthur Maxon, there's a likelihood she'd get killed. Without her, the East has little reason to fight at all, and so they'd give in, and Quintus would appoint some puppet to rule in her place. For Sarah, winning the war would be pretty easy, all things considered. Quintus would probably be reliant on supporting airships for logistics, and if Sarah attacked or destroyed these airships, Quintus would be forced to retreat, or risk annihilation. So that's what the war would look like. Quintus trying to hold out long enough to score some rare yet decisive knockout blow, and Sarah dodging bullets until she can crush Quintus. So who wins? I give the edge to Sarah. Treachery is not that reliable of a weapon. I don't think it will be a good idea waiting on a miracle to win a war. And if Sarah could survive 20 years of isolation, she could survive this. If Quintus wins, Sarah would either die or go into exile in Adams Air Force Base. The elder who fought the outcasts becoming the outcast herself. The chapter would split between loyalists and isolationists, and civil war would rock the land for years to come. If Sarah wins, then the Western Brotherhood would never recover. They'd retreat west shattered, probably at the loss of several airships and power armor, which they could never regain. Any hint of conservative/isolationist values will be scrubbed away, and the East would fully separate forever. Is this a better or worse timeline than what we got in canon? Well, surprisingly, it's not what I thought it was. Before making this, I thought for sure it'd be better than canon. After all, the Minutemen are left alone, the Synths are alive, the Minutemen are left alone, the mutants are dead, the Minutemen are left alone, and DC prospers. Oh, and did I mention the Minutemen are left alone? But that's just in the East. In the West, things completely collapse. Sarah, through no fault of her own, somehow condemns the wasteland to death and oppression, or whatever plan the Enclave was cooking. And the invasion all but destroys the Western Brotherhood, to a point they'll never recover. Even the East is gutted from all these wars. If my invasion doesn't happen, which, yeah, it probably doesn't happen, I admit, then it would be better for the Brotherhood, but nothing good really comes from that. I just can't see them actually targeting the Enclave or anyone that matters. The NCR never rebuilds in Southern California. Lucy is dead, and Caesar's Legion probably captures New Vegas. The only real hope for this world is the Ghoul, and he can't stop everything. I thought for sure the biggest winners for this scenario would be the Capital Wasteland, then the Commonwealth Minutemen, and, you know what, maybe the NCR. Instead it's the Enclave, Caesar's Legion, and still the Minutemen. Perhaps if this scenario was made before the show, things'd turn out different. Hell, I think the writers probably would have made the show different had she actually lived. But just based off what we have, the scenario would be much worse. I suppose the real lesson we could learn here is that conflict is inevitable one way or another. That humanity is always balancing itself. Where goodness prospers, evil comes to challenge it. Where evil reigns, people find goodness in its cracks. Like war, this cycle follows mankind, fueling its never-ending insanity, because war never changes. Thank you all very much for watching. If you all wish to see more, please follow the instructions established in my last video. You know, I'm a big fan of not dying in a cardboard box, so any likes, subscriptions, and comments you could leave would mean a hell of a lot. I don't want to be that guy, and my apologies for begging, but, I gotta do what I have to do. Also, my viewer retention was low. I hope this video is more exciting. I did my best to improve on the mistakes of my last vid. I got rid of the giant personal storytelling bit of Chapter 1. If you all actually did like the storytelling of Chapter 1, let me know. I'll see if I can adapt it. If not, well, I'll see. If you all have any topics you'd like me to cover, let me know. Likely won't make any vids for a few months. I have a few ideas rattling around in my head, but I could definitely use suggestions. Well, alright, thank you very much. Have a good day. Lyons.